We often hear service providers say that they deliver value. Well, I am sorry to spoil the party, but providers do not really deliver value. Maybe this is true indirectly, but the provider actually delivers outputs. An output is defined as a tangible or intangible deliverable following an activity. In other words, the box which we push out of the door, as to speak. So let's assume this output is a payroll system. Then the outcomes, the results that is, which the consumer wants from this output, is to calculate salaries and pensions, pay monies into people's bank accounts, and to submit taxes due to the government, etc. This is where value is created. So the provider must map outputs to outcomes and map outcomes to value, as opposed to just building and fixing stuff and walking away. Secondly, we also need to understand and make visible the band of visibility. This represents the portion of the product or service which the consumer actually sees and comes into contact with. For example, if you go to a restaurant as a service consumer, you will see the waiters and the waitresses, the dining area and the check-in and check-out, etc. Typically, you will not see the kitchen, meaning from the provider's perspective, there are portions of the product or service you do not see or come into contact with. If you did, then the band of visibility from the provider's perspective would be wider. Of course, from the provider's perspective, they need to understand and make visible the entire geography and dimensions of the product or service. Okay, now the provider also needs to understand and make visible the line of visibility. The provider should forensically map the customer journey because they need to walk in the shoes of the service consumer. We need to understand the pain points. We need to understand the highlights. And we most certainly need to understand the moments of truth. A moment of truth is where the service consumer gets an impression or changes their impression, good or bad. And trust me, there are many moments of truth in a consumer journey. I find it absolutely scandalous that a provider dictates and lectures a service consumer when the provider has never even walked the journey end to end themselves. We should understand and make visible which provider teams interplay with which step or steps, and in turn understand the attributes that each team must promote to fulfill the expectations in those steps. And not to mention, whilst each team should promote the required specialisms required to satisfy each step which they interplay, these teams should also promote a broad knowledge of the overall journey, especially those steps which they depend on and those steps that depend on them.